everyone, it's Mark from RPGnights.com. I'm here to review the Dungeon Master's Guide. It's Christmas Eve here in Tassie, so it's pretty warm, and I'm also at work, so I may get interrupted a few times while we do this, but that's the nature of the beast. So the Dungeon Master's Guide. Here it is in all its glory. Let me get this camera stuff right. A beautiful book. You can see the nice big lich on the front cover. Bit of a whispering tyrant lich for me, Pathfinder, but there you go. But it's a good looking cover, and the cover's got the shiny side and the matte side again that you can see here. The book itself is proper size. It doesn't feel overpressed. I haven't sort of run into any problems with the book, although my chapter 6, the page straight with chapter 6 written on it, actually has a bit of blurring on the sheet. So I don't know whether that was an issue, don't know whether you can make it out even, but I can still read it. I'll leave one page out of a 200 and 300 and something page book is okay. So to the guts of it, and what did I think about this book, and honestly I'm going to surprise quite a few people here, I'm sure, and say I liked it. I loved it. This is a really good book. This is the best of the 3 books. It hasn't made me a fan of D&D yet, and may not make me a fan of D&D, but it essentially does give you some really good DMing advice, and that's the key here. That's what we want from a book. That's what we want from a D&D Dungeon Master Guide. Advice on how to be a Dungeon Master, how to build a campaign, how to build your adventures, how to build interesting NPCs. It's all in the book. It starts out nicely. It says, think about your world. What are you going to do? How is your world cosmology set out? Who are the deities? How are the deities functioning together? What does that mean for the races and the classes? Then it goes into detail about narrowing it down and building encounters and building scenarios and building adventures and making interesting NPCs and having a look at your areas that you're dealing from. This is all really good stuff. The encounter balancing stuff in there was a little complex for my tastes. It really did sort of seem to be unbalanced, in very loads of calculation required in it, and that annoys me. But there's things in it that niggle me, this book, but that doesn't matter. In a book like this, you've got to really take it from the view, is it going to help a lot of the people a lot of the time, and the answer is yes. Things will niggle people about this book. There are things in here about, they give you options about healing, which is one of the bugbears that I have with the basic rules, but they don't make it better. They sort of make it either extremely hard to get hit points back or ludicrously easy. They don't have a middle road for it, so I didn't like that sort of stuff. It's laid out slightly different to every other DMG that has ever been before, in that the magic items are in the centre. There are a lot of pictures for the magic items in the book, which is fantastic. Gives a great visualisation of what you're handing out, meaning that you can sort of describe a lot of the material in there. There's not a picture for every item, but there are a lot of pictures in there. I was surprised with how many there were. After that section, they give you a nice sort of description about how to run the game, and give you options about running the game if things don't sort of suit your style or whatnot, and if you run into trouble in certain areas and stuff like that. They do have new rules in the combat section about how to run combat, and that annoyed me, because really there shouldn't be anything new, no new rules coming into it from a DM perspective, unless it's strictly not to do with the players. But they got stuff in there about flanking. Now, flanking previous to this, out of the player's handbook, didn't give you advantage, but now flanking does give you advantage, as an optional rule, admittedly, but still, that should be something that's in the player's handbook, so the players understand this, so that they can flank creatures and they can gain advantage from it. But again, this is something that I can house rule, or anybody can house rule, and it's not too much of an issue. The last section of the book was set up as a DM workshop, and they talked about it in the introduction as if you want to create your own rules and stuff like that. Pardon me. Come to that section of the book. When I got there, seeing it as the last section, I sort of had high hopes for it, but really they just sort of threw a whole heap more optional rules. They didn't sort of do a lot of explanation about how to create your own rules, which would have been nice. There's how to create your own creature, how to create your own magic item, how to create your own spells, all that sort of stuff in there. So it's a workshop to a degree, but there's also a whole heap of other information in it. That being said, the book as a whole, apart from that section, sort of really struck me as brilliant. They come at it from my point of view, which is there is no one right way to GM or DM a game. And they try to give you options, and they try as a beginner DM right through to an experienced DM to give you, you can do this and you can do that, or you can do this and you can do that, in the effort not to sound like a horrible song. But it's really quite a good book. I really suggest that you guys go out there and pick up this book, whether you're playing D&D or not. It's a great place for DMing advice. So I'm sorry for those of you that expected a huge read. I'm Mark Knights, rpgknights.com.